The Journey of Jihan Sikander, Episode 1. The Hacker Who Shook the World, Jihan Sikander's Untold Story. What if a teenager, sitting in a dim room halfway across the world, quietly accessed over half of the world's digital infrastructure without stealing a single piece of data? He didn't do it for money, fame, or revenge. He did it to show the world a mirror. That teenager was Jihan Sikander. Born in a modest home in Karachi, Pakistan, in the early 2000s, Jihan grew up surrounded by wires, broken machines, and books his parents couldn't afford but somehow found. His father, Sikander Ahmed, was an electrician who fixed dangerous wiring in old apartment buildings, while his mother Pavin managed the home with grit and grace. Jihan's world was small, but his imagination wasn't. While other children played outside, he would sit indoors, dismantling old radios and VCRs, curious to know what made them tick. At age 7, Jihan taught himself how to boot an old Pentium to computer using MS-DOS commands. By the time he turned 10, he was already writing QBASIC programs, turning his family's slow, second-hand computer into something smarter. His curiosity wasn't just about how things worked. It was about why they worked that way and how they could be made better. His mind was not built for limitations. In school, he was both admired and feared by his teachers. He questioned everything from textbooks to school rules. Once, for a science fair, he created a simulation of a DOS denial of service attack to show how the school's server could be taken down by just a few lines of code. The principal threatened to expel him, but when Jihan handed him a full report on how to fix the vulnerability, the principal was forced to admit this kid had done more for school security than their IT staff. As a teenager, Jihan devoured books on networks, encryption, and artificial intelligence. He mastered Python, C++, and Java. He joined anonymous hacker forums under the name Zirignite, where he connected with some of the brightest and darkest minds on the internet. Some hacked to help, others to harm. Jihan remained somewhere in between, committed to knowledge, but deeply aware of how dangerous it could be. At 16, Jihan was awarded a full scholarship to the prestigious International Institute of Digital Sciences in Berlin, Germany. It was a bittersweet moment. He was leaving his family behind, but he carried with him their dreams. In Berlin, surrounded by supercomputers and world-class mentors, Jihan became unstoppable. He would sometimes spend 18 to 20 hours in the lab, chasing the perfect algorithm. But as his skills grew, so did his concern. He realized that the world's digital foundation's power grids, hospitals, financial networks were built on fragile, outdated systems. One well-planned cyber attack could bring everything crashing down. The illusion of digital security terrified him more than any virus. And so, in his third year at the institute, Jihan began to plan something, radical something that would later make him both a villain and a hero. He called it the Universal Penetration Project. His aim was not to destroy, but to expose. He would hack into the world's most secure systems, not to steal or break, but to reveal their flaws. For 18 months, Jihan built the tools himself. He created exploits that no firewall could detect. He practiced in simulated environments, tweaking, refining, waiting. Then, one cold night in December, he launched his project from a small apartment in Berlin. He called it Digital Observatory. Sitting alone in the dark, Jihan began his quiet digital invasion. One by one, high-security systems fell, government networks, private corporations, defense databases, medical records. He didn't touch anything. He took nothing. He only documented what was wrong. By the time the sun rose, he had silently entered over 60% of the world's critical digital systems. Then, he published everything. His 197-page document titled The Anatomy of Digital Fragility sent shockwaves across the globe. News outlets called him a terrorist. Interpol issued a red notice. Germany pressed charges. His university expelled him. But when cybersecurity experts analyzed his data, the truth became impossible to ignore. He had stolen nothing. He hadn't planted malware. He hadn't caused a single outage. What he did was show the world the cliff it was already hanging from. For weeks, he lived as a fugitive. Public opinion was split. Some feared him. Others praised his courage. Then, the shift began. Cybersecurity firms, digital ethics boards, and activists began to speak in his defense. He had exposed flaws that could have been used by real criminals. He had saved lives. Eventually, charges against him were dropped under one condition. He would never attempt such an operation again. The German government later awarded him the Global Cyber Peace Prize, recognizing that what he did, though illegal, had likely prevented future disasters. When asked years later if he had any regrets, Jihan quietly said, "I regret that it had to be me."